There are places in America where the streets are so broken, even the sirens stop short and the police hesitate to walk the streets at night. Skid Row, downtown Los Angeles, is one of them.
It seems like there's no love here.
This isn't a war zone. This is real life, happening right now in the heart of one of the wealthiest cities in the country. Just minutes from Hollywood's red carpets and luxury condos, entire city blocks have been swallowed by desperation. Tents stretch as far as the eye can see. The sidewalks, lined with human struggle. The nights, so unpredictable. Not out of fear, but because they know, down here, the system has failed. You might be wondering, why should this matter to me? Because what's unraveling in Skid Row isn't just an LA problem. It's a mirror. It reflects where our country is headed, where affordability is disappearing, where healthcare is out of reach, and where those who fall behind are left to survive in the shadows. If you've ever felt the pressure of rising rent, worried about your retirement check lasting the month, or wondered what happens if you lose your health coverage, this isn't just a story, this is a warning. So tonight, we walk through it, slowly and carefully. And as usual, this is not a pessimistic warning, but a perspective reflecting multiple sources to help the community understand better and prepare proactively. Let's begin. They call it the City of Angels. But by nightfall, in places like Skid Row, it feels more like a city that's lost its soul. Los Angeles.
You can get along. This ain't the place you dream about.
For decades, this city stood as a symbol of the American dream. Sunshine, opportunity, freedom. But just blocks away from the glittering lights of Hollywood, there's a very different reality unfolding. When the sun sets on downtown LA, Skid Row becomes something most people don't want to see. A long stretch of sidewalks and back alleys where thousands of people sleep in tents, under tarps, or out in the open. Entire streets are lined with makeshift shelters. And the deeper you go, the more you realize. This is not just about homelessness. It's about survival. This isn't a place you stumble into by accident. Even long-time locals lock their doors when driving past. And police? Some say they hesitate to patrol these streets after dark, not out of fear of danger alone, but because the situation has become too overwhelming, too out of control. But here's the truth. Skid Row isn't just out there. For many viewers, especially those living on fixed incomes, retirees, or folks who worked hard their whole lives, this hits closer to home than we'd like to admit. The gap between having a roof and living on the edge is thinner than ever. One medical emergency, one missed rent payment, and everything can change. To witness what's happening in a place few dare to visit, and ask the question no one wants to face. If this is happening in Los Angeles, could it happen where you live too? Just east of downtown Los Angeles, Skid Row stretches across about 50 city blocks. In the daytime, it's visible. But at night, it becomes something else entirely. A maze of tents, plastic tarps, shopping carts, and silent suffering. And yet, this isn't a hidden place. It's right there. Walking distance from government buildings, from tech offices, from apartments that rent for $4,000 a month. The contradiction is stunning. You can spend $10 on a coffee in one zip code and walk 10 minutes to another, where someone hasn't had clean water in days. If you're watching this and think, that could never happen where I live, stop and consider this. Most of the people here didn't grow up expecting this either. Some had jobs, pensions, families. Some are veterans. Some are seniors living on disability or social security that no longer stretches far enough to cover rent. This isn't a story about people who made bad choices. It's a story about how systems fail people over time and then forget them. As we walk through these streets, you start to notice the little things. A woman brushing her hair by the light of a street lamp. A man reading a worn Bible, cross-legged next to his tent. Someone cooking instant noodles over a makeshift fire in a tin can. These moments don't show up on the news, but they're real, and they're everywhere down here. Most shelters are full. Affordable housing wait lists are years long. Health services are hard to access and harder to afford. And in the middle of it all, people live, sleep, and try to hold on to something that still feels human. You may never walk through Skid Row, but the people here, they're not so different from us. They just fell behind in a world that won't slow down. If this can happen in the shadow of skyscrapers and tech giants, what's stopping it from happening in your neighborhood too? Skid Row isn't just a neighborhood. It's the result of decades of choices, policies, and priorities that left too many behind. To understand what's happening now, we have to look back. In the 1970s and 80s, cities across America started shutting down large hospitals. The idea was to shift care into the community. But the follow-up, housing, health programs, never fully came. People with nowhere to go landed on the streets. And one by one, block by block, Skid Row became the last stop for many. Then came the rise in housing prices. Los Angeles grew. So did its costs. But wages didn't keep up. Apartments that once rented for $500 now go for 4 times that. If you're on a fixed income or working a low-wage job, you're already walking a tightrope. One unexpected bill, one missed paycheck, and you could be out. For the people already on the edge, the system offers little support. Wait lists for public housing, years long. Shelters, overcrowded. Rehab programs, underfunded. And if you're dealing with health problems, physical or mental, the barriers are even steeper. So how did we get here? Las Vegas has seen remarkable growth. Luxury resorts, billion-dollar developments, and entertainment on a world-class scale. But while the skyline rose higher, affordable housing didn't always keep pace. Many of the workers who support the city's tourism and service economy have struggled to find places they can afford to live. Over time, healthcare services were reduced, budgets tightened, and some support systems became harder to access. As a result, more individuals and families have found themselves facing hardship, and in some cases, living without stable shelter. If you're not useful to the economy, it's like you vanish, one man told us. He had worked in construction for 25 years. Then, an injury put him out of work. He lost his job, then his apartment, then his car. Now, he sleeps near 5th and San Pedro, watching the world move past him like he's invisible. If being useful is the only way to stay visible in our society, who gets to define value? And at what cost? You don't have to live in Skid Row to feel its impact. If you live in Los Angeles or any American city facing a similar struggle, this isn't just a distant issue playing out on a few troubled blocks. What's happening here is echoing into neighborhoods, parks, and public spaces across the city. Encampments aren't confined to alleyways anymore. They're showing up near schools, under freeways, beside grocery stores. For residents, it brings daily questions they never thought they'd have to ask. Is it safe to take my kids to the park? Why does the bus stop feel different now? What happens if someone in crisis walks through my front yard? The reality is, when a city has no clear plan for how to care for its most vulnerable, the stress of that failure spreads everywhere. Officials are walking a tightrope, trying to maintain public order while avoiding actions that may further harm already struggling individuals. It's a balancing act, that leaves everyone frustrated. On one side, residents who feel unheard, worried their communities are changing in ways they can't control. On the other, thousands of people with nowhere to go, told they can't stay where they are either. The result? Tension, protests, legal battles, community meetings filled with fear, confusion, and more questions than answers. 911 calls related to homelessness are rising. Emergency rooms are overburdened. Law enforcement officers, even those with the best intentions, admit they're not trained to be social workers, counselors, or mental health professionals. Yet more and more, that's the role they're being asked to fill. And for the people experiencing homelessness themselves, every interaction becomes another uncertainty. Will it lead to help? Or just another warning to move along? Skid Row isn't just a place. It's a symptom of a system that's struggling to serve everyone, and it's raising tough questions, not just about policy, but about who we are as a society. So when a city's pain reaches every sidewalk, every classroom, and every home, the real question is, how long can any of us afford to look away? It's easy to think help is out there, that if someone truly needed it, they could walk into a shelter, apply for aid, and get back on their feet. But on the ground, that safety net is full of holes, and for many, it's disappeared altogether. In Los Angeles, services are stretched beyond their limits. Beds are full, wait lists are long. Paperwork is complicated, especially for people without a phone, ID, or even a mailing address. Imagine trying to navigate all that while living in a tent, carrying your life in a shopping cart. Many who need healthcare don't even know where to start. Others are met with long lines, overbooked clinics, and underpaid staff who are doing their best, but simply can't meet the demand. For older adults, veterans, or those with disabilities, the barriers can feel impossible. Some try to ask for help, others give up entirely. And who can blame them? You might think, how did it get this bad? The truth is, over time, key parts of the support system have been slowly removed. Hospitals were closed decades ago without enough community care to replace them. Affordable housing wasn't built fast enough to match rising rents. Programs that once helped people transition out of tough times were scaled back, privatized, or buried under layers of red tape. The result? People fall, and no one is there to catch them. If you've ever had to make a dozen phone calls just to speak to someone, or waited weeks for an appointment that only lasted minutes, then you already understand a fraction of what the system feels like for someone living on the streets. This isn't just about policies or budgets. It's about real people trying to survive in a system that no longer sees them clearly. And for many Angelenos watching this, the fear isn't just for strangers in Skid Row. It's the quiet thought. If I lost my job, if I got sick, could this happen to me? Because the truth is, when a system is this overwhelmed, this tangled, it stops functioning as a ladder and starts looking more like a maze, one where only the lucky find the exit. And in a place like Los Angeles, where wealth and struggle exist side by side, that contrast is hard to ignore. So if even the safety net is broken, what are people really supposed to hold on to? Here, you'll see street after street of tents, makeshift shelters, and quiet attempts at normalcy. Someone sweeping the sidewalk outside their tarp, a small potted plant balanced on a crate, handwritten signs asking not for money, but simply to be treated with dignity. This is not a random gathering of people who chose this life. This is the result of years, even decades, of systemic decisions. Zoning laws that limited affordable housing, health systems under strain, and a justice system that cycles people in and out without long-term support. For some, Skid Row offers community, people who understand their struggles, who share what little they have. But that doesn't make it safe. Resources are scarce. The risk of illness is constant. And for many, hope is in short supply. Even emergency responders tread carefully here. It's not because the people are dangerous. It's because the situation is complicated. Crowded sidewalks, unpredictable conditions, a place overwhelmed by need and starved for solutions. For city officials, Skid Row is a challenge no one has fully solved. And for residents of Los Angeles, especially those nearby, it raises hard questions. Why has this been allowed to grow in plain sight? How can a city this wealthy leave so many people behind? And perhaps the most difficult question of all, if we've accepted Skid Row as part of the landscape, what does that say about us? Because this isn't just about one neighborhood. It's about how we treat people when they have nothing left. And when a city within a city forms because the outside world has shut its doors, it's time to ask if we've built the kind of society we truly want to live in. When people talk about homelessness, they often ask, why don't they just leave? Why don't they move somewhere cheaper? Or even, why don't they just get a job? But the truth, the one that's harder to look at, is that for many people trapped in places like Skid Row, leaving isn't a simple decision. It's a mountain that keeps growing the longer you're stuck at the bottom. Imagine trying to restart your life when you don't have a phone, or a mailing address, or clean clothes for a job interview. How do you fill out a rental application when your ID was stolen or lost months ago? How do you get health support when clinics are booked out for weeks and you're not even sure where to go? These are the invisible walls that keep people locked in place. And then there's the financial side. The cost of moving, paying first and last month's rent, security deposits, application fees, all while you're trying to stretch $3 into your next meal. For many on Skid Row, daily life becomes a full-time effort to survive. You're focused on the next meal, the next safe place to sleep, the next moment of rest. Planning for tomorrow becomes a luxury, one that's hard to afford when today is already overwhelming. And let's be honest, even if someone does everything right, the system doesn't always respond in kind. There are long waiting lists for housing programs. Shelters are often full. Case managers are stretched thin. And all the while, the clock keeps ticking. The weather gets colder, the streets get tougher, and hope gets harder to hold on to. This isn't about people not wanting help. It's about how hard we've made it to actually receive help. If you're watching this and you're someone who's faced hard times, maybe you've been through a foreclosure, a bankruptcy, or lost a job later in life, you might understand just how fast things can unravel. One bad break, one hospital bill, one phone call that changes everything. And that's the point. The people on Skid Row aren't statistics. They're neighbours, veterans, former nurses, single parents, people who once had keys in their pockets and dreams in their hearts. But now, many are caught in a system that feels like it was built to hold them down, not lift them up. Until we truly understand these barriers, and until we stop asking, why don't they just leave, and start asking, what's keeping them stuck, this cycle won't break. In a crisis this visible, you'd expect large-scale solutions, bold policies, national headlines. But the truth is, most of the people showing up for Skid Row aren't officials, celebrities, or major organisations. They're everyday folks. A retired teacher who hands out sandwiches every Tuesday. A local barber who offers free haircuts just to help someone feel seen again. Church groups who bring socks, bottled water, and conversation, not judgment. These acts won't fix the entire system, but to someone living on the streets, they can mean the difference between feeling invisible and feeling human. And sometimes, that's where change begins. There are also grassroots non-profits doing the work most people don't talk about. Groups like the Shower of Hope, which brings mobile showers to Skid Row, or Chrysalis, which helps people build resumes, prep for job interviews, and apply for work, one small step at a time. But here's the hard truth. These groups are doing too much with too little. They rely on donations, volunteers, and goodwill. And they're often stretched thin, trying to plug holes in a much larger ship that's already sinking. The question isn't just who's helping, it's why are they the only ones helping? Where's the coordinated effort? Where are the long-term plans? Because while kindness matters, and it absolutely does, we can't build a future for thousands of people with only good intentions. It's not that the system is broken, it's that for many of the people living here, it feels like the system was never built for them in the first place. A system that fails one community today can fail another tomorrow. And when that happens, when it's your neighbour, your grandchild, your friend, what kind of help will be there? That's not just a political question, it's a human one. Skid Row is more than just an address. It represents the outcome of decades of decisions across housing, healthcare, employment, and public safety. For many, it raises difficult questions. How did such a concentrated humanitarian crisis emerge in the middle of one of the wealthiest cities in the world? And why has it persisted for so long, often hidden in plain sight? It's easy to think of homelessness as someone else's problem. But the streets of downtown Los Angeles reveal a broader story. One that touches housing policies, income inequality, health infrastructure, and the affordability of basic living. Behind every tent is a personal history. A former nurse who lost her apartment after a medical emergency. A veteran coping with PTSD without access to consistent care. A young adult aging out of foster care with nowhere to go. These aren't isolated cases. They are part of a larger system under strain, one where support networks are limited, housing options are scarce, and survival often takes priority over stability. As cities grow, so do the divides between those with resources and those without. The reality of Skid Row isn't just about what went wrong. It's also about what hasn't been addressed. If the goal is safety, dignity, and opportunity for all, the challenge isn't just to rebuild, it's to reimagine. What kind of city protects only part of its population? What kind of society can sustain progress if entire neighborhoods are left behind? Skid Row poses no easy answers, but it demands better questions and a deeper willingness to face the consequences of what's been neglected for too long. In the heart of Los Angeles, just steps from billion-dollar buildings and luxury storefronts, entire communities live without shelter, security, or support. Skid Row isn't just a location. It's a reflection of a deeper issue that stretches far beyond city limits. For many, this crisis feels distant until it's not. The line between stability and survival is thinner than it seems, and growing thinner for millions of Americans. Homelessness is not just a policy issue, it's a human one. And while solutions aren't simple, silence isn't an option. What do you think about the Los Angeles homeless encampment Skid Row? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. This video is not intended to blame any organization, individual, government, or business. The content presented is based on publicly available data, reports, and real stories at the time of execution. Every perspective is analytical, exploratory, and reflective with the aim of raising community awareness, encouraging dialogue, and promoting humanitarian actions.